First things first, I want to cover before we get into this video that I am not anywhere near being quote unquote qualified to tell you this stuff, and this stuff should not be followed on an extremely strict basis. All I'm saying is that for the most part, following my own advice I'm giving out here, I was able to get to the 1800s or mid-platinum. That doesn't make me an expert or anything on Brawlhalla, but hey, I'm just trying to help you out the best I can. Alright, so you just hit the 1400s and you're a low gold. From this point on, the only people that you're going to meet are sig spammers or people that are smart enough to counter it. Basically a bunch of decent players that act super cocky because they think they're the best at the game and deserve to be in top level leagues. This division is one up from the division that you start out from when you first start playing ranked, and is often regarded as the most toxic division of all time. Because a lot of people that are just starting to have success let it get to their head, and they act like they know everything, but when they lose, well. A lot of people get stuck in this division trying to rank up because they do the same thing that they did in the silver division when they ranked up to gold, expecting it to still work. However, most are smart enough to counter silver strategies such as signature spamming, basic edge guarding, and just being slow in general. However, there are certain strategies that can be implied when playing ranked 1v1s that can greatly help you out with winning your matches. The first thing to do is to have the right mindset. Too many people often quit the game because of toxic players, or because they expect completely honorable play from their opponents. This is a ranked 1v1, dude. People are gonna do anything they can to boost their ELO, so don't expect anyone to let you get your weapon, especially in a division nicknamed the saltiest division in the game. Tilt is a term commonly used to describe the condition one is in when they are in an angry state and play worse because of it. If you find yourself sweating or feeling angry at the game or players in general, it may be best to take a break, have a snack, play a different game, and hit up ranked later. I actually remember a Brawlhalla video talking about this, and after learning about this, I personally only play a few games of ranked, and then get off instead of having a long marathon ranked session, so I can focus all of my energy into these few games. This may not be part of the technicalities of the game, but in my opinion, it's one of the most important things you can do when playing Brawlhalla. Have a clear mindset, try not to make moves out of sheer emotion or anger when playing, and know that you're going to lose along the way. It's just the process of getting better. Now let's get into the technical stuff. The first thing you want to do when you want to play competitively is to know your legend better. By this I'm not talking about memorizing combos or strings and stuff. I'm more so talking about how the weapons complement each other and cover each other's weaknesses. For example, if you're to main Koji, which is a bow and sword character, you can use the bow for long-range distancing and baiting out attacks, and then when the opponent is low, you can rush in for a couple of light attacks that quickly combo into a signature to finish off the life. I personally made a bow and hammer character, and I often like to use the bow for its quick attacks and nibble at my opponent's health, and when I get them into kill percentage, I'll often swap my bow for the hammer for its great kill options, such as side air or neutral signature. This is actually something I should do, and I don't really do it often, but something that really helps is just setting a 15-minute timer for yourself and just hitting up training mode. Not to practice combos or anything, but just to play around with the weapons and to see every attack possible and see every scenario in which it excels. For example, if you do this, you may pick up something new about your weapon, such as the fact that sword down air works extremely well as an edge guarding tool, and information like this will help you mix up your attacks to catch your opponent off guard. The second thing that I want to cover is the neutral game, or a point in the game where both of you two are far enough away from each other to where you can't even hit each other, and both people are waiting for an opportunity to attack. Now, there are several ways to win the neutral game. The most infamous way to win the neutral game, and the one that gets the most hate, is playing passive, or simply waiting for your opponent to attack and miss so you can punish them with your counterattack, whatever that may be. This is actually extremely effective in all divisions because, if perfective in my opinion, it's the most effective way to win the neutral game. But there are other options. The second option to win a neutral game is to memorize which long-range attacks can hit from far away, and try to catch your opponent by surprise with one of those. For example, neutral light with spear or down light with bow combined with a chase dodge is a really good example of a long range attack you can use to win the neutral game and follow up with more strings. There are certain exceptions to having a long range attack. For example, Katars don't really have any long range attacks, but they compensate with their powerful aerial game. This is where knowing your weapons come in. If you want to win the neutral game and start landing hits on your opponent, you have to use movement to maneuver yourself to a position where you have the advantage to strike and your opponent is at a disadvantage. This right here is half the game. The reason so many people in championships are just moving around so much is because they're trying to position themselves to where they can land some good hits on their opponent. This might take a bit of time to get used to, so a bit of training time, like I mentioned earlier, wouldn't hurt when knowing your attacks. There's also one final way to win the neutral game, and this one is the least effective. It's something called sig spam. Sig spam is the act of abusing the fact that a character's signature moves have wide hitboxes and repeating those moves over and over again in a predictable fashion in hope of catching your opponent in one of them. This actually works to an extent, unlike everybody seems to not say, but you have to be extremely careful when doing this because signatures have a very long recovery time. And if you miss close to your opponent, they can retaliate with a light attack or even a signature of their own. I'm not saying sig spamming is bad, it's just very predictable if used too often, and will often get you a lot of hate if you do when using this method. Those are pretty much the three methods of closing the neutral game. I'm not saying one method is better than the other, but one thing I would agree on is using all three in combination or rotating your style of winning the neutral game is way better than using one strategy all the time. The next thing that I want to cover is movement. In my personal opinion, this is the most important aspect of fighting matches in Brawlhalla, because you can be the best person in the world at combos, but if you can't even move properly, you won't get the chance to do them because you won't ever win the neutral game. Again, movement, just like every other concept that I'll be introducing in this video, is more so a concept to master by playing over time, but there are some tips here that I will share to improve your movement right off the bat. The first tip for movement I want to talk about is fast falling. When you're playing in the silver division, you really shouldn't concern yourself with this because so many people miss randomly thrown out attacks and those are often very easy to punish. However, as you move your way up through the ranks, a lot of times characters will often move around in the air, simply trying to bait out an attack so they can punish, also known as playing passive. The implementation of fast falling can often throw off your opponent and even intimidate them as well. To fast fall, simply press down on your controller or keyboard, and your character will fall at a faster rate towards the ground. This can be used for getting to the ground quicker to punish a missed signature, or even can be used to try and fake out your opponent that is trying to read where you're going, so he can follow up with an attack. The second tip I'm going to share might be fairly obvious, but always be aware of how many jumps you and your opponent have. Your character can double jump twice in the air, use one recovery move, and one movement dodge in battle. Make sure you keep track of this. Way too many people in gold, and even in platinum, overcommit to edgeguarding and will often kill themselves trying to take a stock off because they do not keep count of their jumps. It is very important not to go too far off the edge, as if you miss, you will be the one being edgeguarded. It is not only important to keep track of how much jumps you have, but how much jumps your opponent has as well. If your opponent has run out of double jumps while being in the air, his character will turn a darker shade of colors, and if you happen to be below him, you want to position yourself to a point where you can attack him immediately when he lands, preferably with a combo starter such as sidelight or spear or gauntlets. This really should be common sense, but you would be surprised at how many people, even in high ranks, just kill themselves because they don't keep count of their movement abilities. The third and final idea I want to cover when covering movement is using grounded dashes. If you combine the dodge button with a forward or backward movement, they will dash in that respective direction. If you combine this movement with a jump and a fast fall, you will often get a motion like this that can make you extremely hard to hit. I often like to use this movement strategy when going on the offensive, for example if my opponent misses an attack. After this dash/jump, you can follow up with a move that suits best for attack. For example, neutral air with spear is great for attacking like this. This is all that I really have so far for movement. Keep in mind that I'm certainly not the most credible for this guide, as I'm only in low/mid plat and in 1800s-ish. However, I still believe that using movement strategies like these can help you get through gold. Alright, with these movement tricks you should probably get an opponent to bait out a light attack, but how will you punish? It's way easier if it is a signature move, but if they miss a light attack, there are still ways to punish with fast, long-range low damage attacks that I like to call poke attacks. To make it easier for you guys, I'm going to list the best poke attack for each weapon when your opponent misses. For bow, it would be dash downlight or side air if you're in an aerial position. Hammer, side air or down air works pretty well, also side light combined with a dash with maybe downlights. With the sword, side light or downlight if you're on the ground, or side air or down air if you're in the air. Spear, neutral light if you're on the ground, or neutral air if you're in the air. Ground pound is pretty good as well because of hitboxes. With guitars, down air or nair if you're in the air, or side light or neutral light if you're on the ground depending on how close you are to them. With lance, side light if you're on the ground, or down air if you're in the air. Lance doesn't really have a lot of range, so it's kind of hard to punish with this. With cannon, assuming anyone even plays this weapon, I guess dash neutral lights or downlight. Cannon's pretty bad in general. With blasters, side air combined with a fast fall if you're in an aerial position, or downlight. With orb, I'm terrible with orb. I can't really say orb. I don't play orb, so I can't really say anything about it. Sorry. With scythe, down air or down light. Side light, if you can land it, it's a great combo starter too. With axe, literally any aerial attack or neutral light is good. With gauntlets, down light or side air. Yeah, so basically just pay attention to the ones you use. And I'm not saying to use these all the time. All I'm saying in general is when used in moderation, they seem to hit opponents most of the time for pretty much free damage when they miss. As far as I'm concerned, that's part 1 of attacking down. With this, your opponent should be in red health, or kill percentage according to technical terms. When you get your opponent to this low health, there are several ways to kill. The first way to kill is a signature move. The most common killing option is a side signature, but neutral signature and down signature can work well too, depending on your position. The second way is to try and use a recovery move on them when they're in the air. This will launch them into the air furthermore and will kill them, but they have to be pretty low health for this. The third and final option, which is by far the most complicated, is edgeguarding. I could make an entire video about this subject alone, but I'll streamline the most basic and important parts of how to edgeguard. Just like finishing off your opponent, there are many different ways to edgeguard. Some of them would be ground pounding. Everybody knows about this. It's the most basic way to edgeguard someone as soon as they hit the wall. If you're going to do this option, it is best combined with a dash jump as well, the movement tactic I taught you about earlier, as the ground pound comes out much faster. Number 2, weapon throwing. This strategy is extremely underrated in low gold, and it's way more effective than you would think, because it will force one of 3 things. 1, the weapon will hit him, and most times that will secure the kill if he or she was in kill percentage. 2, it will force a dodge, which will follow up for an easy ground pound edge guard when the character has to go to the wall to recover. In the worst case scenario, you miss your weapon throw, and you no longer have a weapon while his opponent has his. This isn't really an issue, however, as you can jump around a lot and play passive until a weapon spawns. Or if you're decent at unarmed combat, you can try and fight him and try and secure the stock with a signature. The third way to edgeguard is to slide charge. This is a term that is used for when you hold a signature move while dashing off the edge. This works better with some SIGs more than others, but slide charges can be insane depending on which character you're doing it with. Some great examples of signatures to slide charge would be Hattori's down signature with spear, Yumiko's neutral signature with hammer, and Koji's side signature with bow. The reason I prefer this so much over gravity cancelling a signature is because 1, the movement will often throw off your opponent. Number 2, the move comes out a lot quicker, so it's harder to dodge as well. And I also prefer slide charging because this move doesn't cost anything. You don't use up any of your jumps or recoveries, and you can always get back to stage, even if your opponent attempts an edge guard if you miss. Alright, for the most part, we've covered the seriously heavy part and what is essentially the meat and potatoes of the video. For the final part of this guide though, I'm just going to state some tips that I notice often works in ranked game modes. It's not really any sort of substitute for practice and just good technique and play in general, but it does help, believe me. Number 1, taunt after the kill. I don't personally do it because I don't often feel like doing it, but trust me, in a division where people are literally stereotyped as being salty and toxic, it works a lot. Number 2 is to bait the weapon. A lot of people in gold will tend to immediately go for the weapon when they see it, so if you have a weapon, you can pretend to let them get it, then immediately follow up with a poke attack when they pick it up. Number 3, a lot of gold players will tend to dodge through you when you start up an attack or combo starter on them, so try to read that. This won't always happen, but it usually does. Number 4, if you ever find yourself fighting an overly advanced player, there tend to be a lot of smurfs in gold, which means much higher ranking players that demote themselves to fight lower ranking players, so don't feel discouraged if you got crushed. You may as well just have been fighting a diamond or a high platinum. Number 5, in general, try to keep a quick attacks to a signature ratio of 70 to 30. Quick attacks deal almost just as much damage as signatures unless you're trying to secure the kill, and I recommend trying to use a signature in the midst of a combo if you're not edgeguarding them already by this time. Number 6, oftentimes, no matter the rank of your opponent, they will respond extremely poorly to something. My biggest weakness is a passive lance player. I don't really know what to do against players when they travel around quickly with side air as a strategy. I like to do is wait for people to waste all their jumps and dodges, then hit them up with a true combo. Exploit that weakness that your opponent has with no mercy. Number 7, try to build up as big of a lead as you can if you are barely ahead by a stock. If your opponent can land a signature on you and you stay on the map, it's very hard to finish someone off. Try and get a few combos in before you die, and this will really help you a lot. And number 8, I covered this in the very first part of the video, but I cannot stress this enough. Play in a calm mental state. If you're in a chat or a party, then you may want to leave it or tell everyone to be quiet if you concentrate better in silence. You may play better with music or not, but it's important to find what you do better with to improve the chances of winning. And before I end the video, a few shoutouts to my friends who actually did get platinum in the past season, and they got that sweet platinum banner. I would give a shout out to myself, but that's kind of jerky. Number 2, shout out to my friend Dead Zombie 302. He got to platinum with Diana, and he's also a really good player. And number 3, he technically didn't get it, but since he was so close to it, Fading dropped 65 because he's also really good with Nyx. So yeah, hopefully this will help you out on your journey to platinum. Some of you guys may know all of this stuff already, because believe me, I'm certainly not the best at this game either, and I'm still learning every day as I go. But this is some of the stuff that's really crucial to get down when you're getting to platinum through the high gold ranks. So thank you for watching, and yeah, that was a full guide on how to get to platinum. And the other way is just to spam around side SIGs.